Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look for ways we can work together to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. Today we have with us Miss Anna Fox. She is, among many things, at the National Association of Free Will Baptists. She is the church directory liaison. She's in charge of that. You send your church letters to her, or actually your states do, and she works to get that yearbook straight and all the rest of it. And so she's going to talk to us today about how you can actually use the church directory. So, Anna, thank you for coming to the Better Together podcast today.
Thank you.
I know people are like, oh boy, this is going to be exciting, but it really is, isn't it?
It is, and it's really important too.
So let's start with that. Why is the church directory very important? I mean, what does that matter for anyway?
Well, one of the things we know is the way that we lose people to attend Free Will Baptist churches is because they move and they don't know that there's a Free Will Baptist church in their area. And so our church directory is vital for members and pastors to use as a tool to help lead them to a church that, you know, is good, sound doctrine and will love them and keep them invested in church. And that way they don't miss out on attending because they've moved.
That's excellent. And so you may be listening to Anna and say, I just don't believe that. It is true. There's a research study conducted by the Great Dechurching, and 15.5% of the whole U.S. population stopped attending church in the last 25 years, I think it was, Anna, 40 million people. So we have this all the time where people are like, hey, I'm trying to find a Free Will Baptist church, I'm moving, or someone in my church is moving, and you can find that in the church directory.
Yes, so if you go to our directory, then you can search by city, you can search by state, you can see all the churches in your state. If you know of a specific church, you can search by that church's name or even the pastor's name. When you're searching for state, make sure you spell it out, because that can be confusing because it won't accept it if it's an abbreviation, but those are some of the common ways to search.
That's excellent. And so if I'm looking for a church, I do that. And by the way, we encourage all of our listeners, when someone moves, help them find a church in their area. And as evangelical leaders, we've said, or kind of made a commitment, that that's what pastors would do, is help them find that next church so they could get involved. But really, as a pastor, as a church, I need to make sure my material looks pretty good in the directory, don't I?
That's right. And one of the ways you can do that is by having an updated picture in the directory. It can be of your church's logo or of the church's physical sign or building. And that way, when people are trying to find it, they know where they're looking and that they have the right place.
So immediately I go and I look, and if I don't have a church directory picture, it's got a sign and it says, email your church directory picture to Anna at NAFWB.org. So I want that picture to be good, don't I?
That's right.
Or the logo, as you mentioned, is another good way. What other kind of information for people that are looking for a church can they put in the church directory?
We can put contact information. So if there's a phone number that's a church phone number, or if there's another number you'd like added there so that they can call or text, we can add email addresses. There's also a spot where you can put a description where you can tell maybe the mission of your church or what your community is like, and your service times or childcare check-in procedures. And then there's also a place to add a video as well.
Oh boy. So I can actually look at the directory. I can get a sense of something about the church with the picture, the logo, and then that short description. So I know you usually are saying, let's make it short, and whatever it would be, it needs to be accurate, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the video, and I know a fair number of churches have submitted videos. What kinds of things are good for them to include with that?
It can be just a welcome video. Hey, welcome to our church. Here are some things you need to know before you come for the first time, or your check-in procedures for your children or for a first-time visitor. You can also, some people have even shown the layout of the church. Hey, here's where you enter, here's where you can go. But it doesn't have to be that big. You can just be sitting and welcoming your congregation.
Excellent. So a short to the point video uploaded to YouTube or Vimeo, which you could also put on your church Facebook page or your church website, would be very helpful, wouldn't it?
It would. And keeping your website up to date with us is another thing. So that way we can be pointing people to your website or Facebook page.
That's a good point. So imagine I'm trying to find a church. Let's say I'm wherever I'm moving to. I go and the church doesn't have a picture. I go and maybe the information is incorrect. It's a different pastor than they have now. I'm not too inclined to go to that church, am I?
Right, because you can't get a hold of them and know what's going on there.
That's good. So we think of it from one standpoint of how can I find a Free Baptist church? But we also want churches to think of praying for other churches, don't we? And so you mentioned that I could search a whole state and get the names of the churches and the pastors in the whole state. Talk to us a little bit about that and maybe how we could use that to pray for those churches.
Right. So you could search for, a city if you know of a specific area that has a lot of churches in that area or state, and your people make it an initiative for your church. Let's pray for other Free Baptist churches in this state, especially if you know of a state that struggles or is just on low morale. Build them up, write them notes, write them letters. Hey, we're praying for you. What can we do to join alongside of you to encourage you and to help you?
Oh, that's such a great idea. And so we've just had a hurricane that has impacted many of our states. And so you have certain things happen in states, or like the forest fires in California and so forth. What you're saying is, number one, pray for those particular churches, and you've got their address. Send them a little note. Send them something to remind them about what it's about. That's great, Anna. Now, we know the church directory also has an official function. So we're trying to use it to help promote our churches, and we're trying to use it to help pray for our churches. Talk to our listeners a little bit about the official function of the church directory.
So being part of the church directory makes you underneath our umbrella for a 501c3, which is tax exempt status. And I know a lot of you will say, well, I have my state tax exempt, but that's not working most of the time. You have to have a letter from us showing that you're a part of us, so that way you can get some tax exempt for different kind of websites, or to get donations online, or just pantries are needing it. So anything that your church is doing to be a charity to your community or other things, most places are asking for a 501c3 letter. And if you're not underneath an umbrella, you're not going to get that letter. So it's really important to be a part of us so you can have 501c3 status.
So in real time, I walk into Ace Hardware, my local Ace Hardware, and they're like, well, you've got to be a 501c3 status for us to donate something to you. I could pull it up right on my phone. They could see that. But I hear what you're saying is sometimes they need a letter, and all they do is email you. And if they're in that church directory, you're able to give that to them.
That's right.
So that's an important component. A lot of times churches don't think about that. But for your folks to get a tax break, if they will, for donating to you, you've technically got to be a tax exempt church, and so that's through the 501c3 status there. Well, that's great information, Anna. I know a lot of people probably don't think of it as important, but it really is. And how do they assess the NAFWB church directory?
You can go to directory.nafwb.org, and it'll be there with the search features, and that's where you can look to see if your church's information is up to date.
And we encourage you to do that and to send those pictures, send those descriptions and videos to Anna at nafwb.org, and it's a way to put your best foot forward out there on the World Wide Web. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for being with us today as well. And you may think to yourself, this is an important ministry. I want to support this. We want to encourage you to make sure that your church is either participating in the Together Way plan or giving to co-op. every dollar, every cent you give, it really makes a difference. It helps us to help you, and endeavors like this, it also helps us to do what we can to support you and your ministry. So be sure to give. Go to NAFWB.org, click that give page, and you'll find out ways you can. Remember, every little thing we do, it really does matter, and we truly are better when we work together. We're better together.